Wow. Wow. Um, I've made it rather clear on this channel that I have complete opposition to Trump, and I've sort of, until today, conceded that he would win Iowa if the polls were anything to go by. And at the same time, I was impressed by Cruz for having what I believed was political experience, academic background, certainly differing from my own political views, but just in terms of actually knowing his stuff or seeming more qualified. I had the same view for Marco Rubio, for what it's worth, two of them together, who had similar results to him, but with Cruz winning this, it just completely, it shocked me when I returned home and found out. And it's nothing I'm necessarily negative about, because I would much rather him to Trump and much rather Rubio to Trump, who came in a good third. My only problem with him was that his speech after that was a little too long. I mean, you didn't win, so just stop. We get it. You want to try harder next week in New Hampshire, go for it, but tone it down a little bit. Trump's was actually decent. I didn't cringe and go, oh, or any of that. I sat there, listened to it, and it was short, and that's probably, admittedly, one of the reasons why it was so good and just terrific and great and wonderful. But it was doable. It was something that I could work with, as opposed to his positions that he's made apparent over the course of this campaign, which I think are absolutely ridiculous. But that's enough about him. Cruz's speech, I didn't get to hear the whole thing. I got called away for something else. And from what I heard, he used Obama's "Yes, we can" line, and that kind of confused me. If you don't like somebody, if you don't, they're from the opposite party, and you express opposition to pretty much everything they do. Why use their lines? It was just why? So that part didn't add up to me. But aside from that, I was just really blown away by this again. And Rand Paul finished in 5th place, and Carson was in 4th place, but nobody cares about that. I think he'll be out soon enough. And I'm just getting these out of the way because this is the easy part. This was called around the time, shortly after I got home, that they called this. They said, okay, Cruz has won. Again, to my shock, because I kept thinking Trump is doing, if those polls are anything to go by, it's him. He's going to win. There's nothing we can do about it. It's over. But again, I was shocked. So, just throw some predictions for next week. I don't know. I want to say it's Trump again because he's leading, but we might be surprised. I'm hoping I'm surprised. I really do, but the way it looks in those polls, it's going to be Trump, which I would rather not, but whatever. Moving on to Democrats. This one bugged me because I really didn't think Sanders could beat her here, only because I think he'll just destroy her in New Hampshire, just going off of those polls. But again, you could be wrong. I think he will win, though, next week. She barely maintained, and they still aren't done. It's what, at the time of this recording, with 8:59 right here, so that's about, 11:10 over there, sometime around there. She just barely maintained the lead over him, and that shocked me because I was so used to this idea that, she was just going to win and it would be over and it would be done and we'd have a winner on one side, one on the other side. And the lead was so narrow. I almost had to squint looking at those numbers because they were in the single digits. By just, if you had 2 or 3 more people, he would be tied with her. He would win. And it just infuriated me because it's as if we just can't break that glass ceiling of Wall Street and capitalism and big banks controlling these candidates. I really thought we could win with that. And I guess you could say, oh, well, you're a hypocrite because Trump isn't, the result of billionaires giving. But even then, that's still. So I really am shocked on the Republican side, annoyed by the Democrat side, because if he won here and if he wins over there next week, going off of a victory over here, which he apparently didn't get, at least at the time of this recording, he would have just annihilated her. There would, South Carolina would be her last resort, and if that wasn't the case, it was over. So I'm just, and O'Malley is apparently getting out, and so is Huckabee. Huckabee previously said that he would drop out, or that not that he would drop out, but his campaign rested on Iowa, and he performed very poorly. I think he was second from the bottom after right before Santorum. I thought that was really interesting. The previous winners can't even replicate their own victory. So how much of a winner does that make you if you can't even continue or build off of what you had here, 8 years ago? It's just so, I don't want to call them pathetic, because they're not. They tried and they gave their effort, but it wasn't here. It wasn't in the works. So that's that. Cruz's victory over here really means nothing as far as, and I really hate saying that, because I so don't want Trump to get the nomination, but when you go off of the history of this caucus on the Republican side, it doesn't bode well for Cruz. And I think Rubio really was the big winner of tonight, because he got enough votes to where you could say, okay, well, the evangelicals will support him. And not only that, he also is doing, from what I can tell, rather well in New Hampshire. So again, he's doing it. He's making it. And I don't want there to be any misconception about my stance on these candidates. I typically identify more with Democrats because I'm liberal in my social positions. I guess I'm going to start going off topic a little bit. But I have preferences. I certainly do. I have a preference for Sanders over Clinton. I have a preference for Cruz and Rubio over Trump. Now, if it comes down to Cruz and Rubio, I could kind of toss them either way, because there's been some flip-flopping from what I can tell on both sides. Although you might argue it's a little bit more with Cruz, but they've both been accused, and there's been evidence at that last debate. That's what really convinced me. Okay, maybe you guys aren't too different, but I can see where the general like for those two comes from. They're both they're educated, they're young, they're impressive. They've achieved positions of power at just these ages that most people can only dream of, something I can only dream of. So I definitely get where they are impressive or otherwise. I get why the supporters are there for them. I understand. Those two I get. Trump, no way. It makes no sense why anybody is for this man except for his immediate family and the people who have jobs because of him. There, I said it. And I really could care less what the negative opinion is. I don't know the man. I'm sure he's good in other places, but not as president, especially in not having political experience. That's actually part of the big reason why I was so happy Cruz and Rubio did as well as they did. They were frequently, especially in Rubio's case, although Cruz got a bit of it too when he started his campaign, the comparisons to Obama and the freshman senator, the freshman young guy senator. Get out of here with that. That was so annoying. Those two just having to defend themselves over and over and over again because they have some similarities to Obama that I don't think anybody can really control. But again, Rubio got a little bit worse because he has this very youthful appearance. A lot of women find him attractive. He had several, I think Graham in his endorsement of Bush said that although he supported Rubio for president one day, he felt he was too young or too inexperienced and just wasn't ready for it. And I just kept having that feeling of you are so bitter over not being able to do what he's done this election cycle, and you're just going to ruin it for him, or you're going to attempt to ruin it for him. And again, I'm just going off in this little tirade right now because I just want to tell everyone who supports those two, I get it. Even though I don't necessarily agree with their positions on several issues, particularly social issues. Those are the real big ones. As I've stated before, I'm a supporter of same-sex marriage. I oppose the death penalty. There's something else. I'm for women having the right to have abortions. I'm a man, after all. I don't think I should be deciding that. But again, I get the popularity. I get it, and I know I'm getting off topic now, but I just am amazed that Cruz won and that Rubio did as good as he did. Democrat side is whatever. I think this was not a victory for Clinton. I don't care what the numbers say. She might have won, but so narrowly that doesn't matter. It really could just be called a victory for both or a tie, because and honestly, even then it wouldn't be true because it's not a victory for her. She did not do well tonight. Sanders did very well for what was expected of him. And not only do I think she messed herself up, if they go with her now, after she's lost this, and after she's barely won this, and I predict she's going to lose New Hampshire next week, they're playing devil's advocate if they nominate her. The one good thing about the Republican attacks on her, at least in terms of Sanders' campaign, is that they have basically left him unscathed because they just keep going after her. I think only exceptions to anyone actually insulting him were Trump saying that he was a communist and Kasich during that January, what was it, the 14th? That first debate of last month, which I'm forgetting where. I think it was South Carolina. Don't quote me on that. Where he promised that Sanders wouldn't be president and that he would the Republicans, whoever the nominee is, would win all 50 states. That's ridiculous. Get out of here with that. So again, I'm shocked, but there's some good and there's some bad, and tonight was mostly good. Have a good day.